Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, I have 3 stories to tell you all about the day, folks. I have a story in which we have possible Mothman activity, we have this snake woman, reptilian being, and we have alien abductions. Let's get into the first article titled, Spiritual Confrontation with a Winged Predator, Christmas Night at Camp Brookwoods, New Hampshire. On December 25th, 2008, a camp leader at Camp Brookwoods in Alton, New Hampshire, reported a disturbing encounter that began as a physical sensation in Pennsylvania and later escalated into a nighttime confrontation at camp. The witness describes glowing red eyes, sleep paralysis, telepathic intimidation, and the sound of massive wings as the presence was repelled. What makes this report notable is the fusion of cryptid imagery, spiritual warfare, and a protector role involving children. Let's get into the actual story now and hear this guy's account. Witness report. Location Brookwoods, New Hampshire. Date, December 25th, 2008. In 2008, while serving as a leader at Camp Brookwoods in New Hampshire, I underwent a profound spiritual confrontation that transitioned from a physical observation into a high-stakes battle of will and faith. The stages of my encounter. The attachment Radnor, Pennsylvania. As I was boarding the bus in Pennsylvania, I felt a physical sensation like a heavy wet towel being draped over my shoulders. This was the moment a predatory entity latched onto me, hitchhiking across state lines by clinging to my physical and emotional vulnerability. Then we come to the surveillance. Brookwoods, New Hampshire. Once at camp, the entity began to manifest externally during evening meeting with a circle of children. I repeatedly witnessed glowing red eyes watching me from the window. It was observing my leadership and marking my role as a protector. The confrontation. Later, in my cabin, the entity moved from the windows to a direct strike. While in a state of sleep paralysis, I felt that the full weight of the presence. It was no longer just a towel on my shoulders. It was a crushing force trying to lift me out of my body. The telepathic intent. The entity did not speak with a voice, but I felt its message as a raw, intrusive block of thought. It projected an intense predatory hunger for the children in my care and used a scary smile to communicate a mocking demand for my submission. The divine revelation. When I asked God to take me away from the terror, I did not hear an audible voice, but I felt the weight of God's response settle into my consciousness. No, I want you to know what you are dealing with. This shifted the experience from an attack into an initiation. I was being shown the true nature of what had followed me from Pennsylvania. The logical victory. I defeated the entity using spiritual logic. I projected back the intent that I would suffer for the glory of Jesus Christ, effectively turning the entity's own weapon, suffering, into a source of power. By claiming that logic, I became toxic to the predator. The repulsion and dissipation. The encounter ended with a violent slam back into my body as I fully woke up and I regained control. I heard the flapping of massive wings as the entity was forcibly repelled. I looked to where their presence had been, and the physical red lights vanished completely the moment I was awake. They didn't fade. They were gone because the battle was over. Now, here's the summary he made. I was not the victim of a hallucination. I was targeted by a spiritual predator that tagged me in Radnor and followed me to Brookwoods. Through non-verbal communication, I received a divine education in the reality of darkness and the authority I carry. The fact that the physical red lights disappeared the moment I woke proves the presence was tied to the confrontation I fought and won 18 years ago. See. Indeed. That is incredible, folks. C says that with the power of God on his side, folks, he was able to repel this evil entity. Was it a demon? Some people who have researched weird phenomena will say there's a possibility it was a demonic presence or maybe some other spiritual or terrestrial being that perhaps was using C here as a source, maybe feeding on him. And the fact that basically he had called on the power of God, maybe this is also part of the entity's intent, folks. Because maybe this entity wanted him to call on God, folks, to make him think that by doing so it could repel this entity away because it wanted to feed on his faith just as much as it wanted to feed on his suffering. That's what some people will bring up as well, folks. Maybe wanted to just feed on him and his energy and was going to use any way possible to do so. I wouldn't say that's impossible, but it does sound like this entity was more demonic than anything else. But let's now move on to the next story. Snake-skinned woman. Let's read this story, folks, and hear exactly what the experiencer had to deal with. In mid-2020, a jogger was finishing an 8-mile hiking and mountain biking trail when an ordinary run turned into something he still cannot explain. After narrowly avoiding a snake stretched across the path, he heard a woman call out from behind him. Even though he had repeatedly checked the trail and seen no one, what appeared next left him wondering whether he had encountered something far stranger than a lone runner. Indeed, folks, that there was something odd about this woman, about the skin on her body, that left this man perplexed and even, I would say, terrified. But we'll hear about that as we read through this guy's story. I will start by saying this plainly. Call it BS if you want, but this really happened. None of this is false or made up. This occurred in mid-2020 while I was jogging on one of my favorite trails. I am not giving the location. It was an 8-mile hiking and mountain biking trail I had run before. I was about 3/4 of the way through the trail when I began getting a strange feeling that I needed to look behind me. I checked several times, but each time there was nothing there, no person, no movement, nothing I could see. I came around a long bend in the trail. There was thick brush on one side and a stream running along the edge of the path. That uneasy feeling hit me again, so I turned and looked behind me. One more time. Again, nothing. What was this presence, folks? It felt like he was being watched. Now, we read about several accounts of people basically being watched before something would happen. That something was, well, occasionally hearing loud crashing through the woods as something ran away, or a physical encounter. Let's see where this goes now. When I turned back around, I almost stepped directly onto a snake stretched across the trail. It was about 2 feet long and sprawled right in front of me. At the last second, I dodged to the side and nearly missed its head. I kept running. I do not harm animals if I can avoid it. I just do not. About 2 minutes later, I was maybe 5 minutes from the end of the trail when I heard a woman shout, "Behind you!" My soul nearly left my body. I had checked behind me over and over, and there had been no one back there. Then suddenly, this woman appeared. I let her pass me. She was attractive, and I noticed that she was also wearing a weight vest, just like I was. I watched her run ahead of me, and that was when I noticed something that gave me serious chills. At first I thought she was wearing tight snake print jogging shorts, but the longer I looked, the more I realized they did not look like shorts at all. It looked like snake skin from her waist down to the bottom of her butt. I mean, it looked like it was her skin, not fabric, not shorts. She reached the end of the trail before I did. When I got there, she went over to an old white car, sat on the trunk, and stared at me as I walked toward my truck. Very odd, folks. Now, this guy, well, we'll go on to say that perhaps this snake had something to do with this woman. Now, I would also have to ask, did anyone else notice this woman in the way she was dressed? Did they say that she was actually wearing some sort of, well, snake-themed trunks that were so tight that they looked like her skin? Or was, well, this her actual skin? Let's read on. If I had not been so shaken, I might have said hello to her, or it, whatever that was, but the whole thing was too much all at once. I got into my truck and left in a hurry. I truly believe this woman may have manifested from the snake. I've only been back to that trail one time since then, and it is difficult to focus on running there now. I always feel like something is out there. The whole place feels ominous to me now. M.A. Ooh. Could this woman have been a reptilian, folks, an alien being? Or was she something more spiritual? Perhaps a nature spirit thanking this man for dodging this snake and basically not hurting it. Maybe it was the snake itself turned into a human. Maybe that is a real form of reptilians, folks. Who knows? Let's read on to the next article. Northern Ontario alien abduction account. Mother describes strange night aboard sailboat near North Bay. Let's read this particular alien abduction account now. This account centers on a woman who says she experienced an apparent alien abduction while sleeping aboard a sailboat in northern Ontario, likely near North Bay or Lake Nipissing, during the summer of 1977 or 1978. What gives this report added weight is the witness's stated lack of prior interest in UFOs or paranormal subjects, along with the fact that she reportedly shared the story only rarely over the years. Ooh, that sounds incredibly interesting. Let's read on. Witness report. Before we had kids, my husband and I went up to visit friends near Timmins, Ontario. Through them, we were invited to spend a weekend on a Whitby 42 sailboat owned by a man I knew only casually, a friend of a friend. We were somewhere in northern Ontario, likely around North Bay. I cannot say for certain whether it was Lake Nipissing, Lake Simcoe or another lake in that region. This would have been in the summer of 1977 or 1978. It was a beautiful weekend. The boat was beautiful, the water was calm, and the night sky was incredible. Up there, away from the city light, the stars seemed overwhelming. They were so bright and so thick across the sky that it almost felt unreal. That night, while we were all asleep in the bunk, something happened to me that I have never forgotten. I doubt anyone could actually forget an encounter with actual aliens, folks. But then again, maybe she's going to say something different, though I kind of doubt it. Let's get into what she actually experienced now. I remember being lifted. That is the only word I can use. I felt myself rise up and away. Whether it was my body or my spirit, I still cannot say with certainty, but I know I was no longer where I had been. I remember going upward above the boat. I could see the mast. I could see the center cockpit. I could see the lights on the boat below me. Then I went higher and higher until the boat disappeared from view. After that, I found myself in what I can only describe as a room. It had a greenish look to it. The space felt circular, with lights everywhere. It almost reminded me of a movie theater in some strange way, though not exactly. I was lying on what felt like a gurney or a narrow bed, and there were beings around me. They were not human. They looked alien. Their heads were elongated. Their eyes were strange, and they did not appear to be wearing clothing. From the elongated head, the weird eyes, and the fact that they don't wear clothing, folks, it sounds like she encountered the classic gray alien. Now, could this have been some other type? We don't know yet. We'll have to read further to see where it goes. They spoke in a language I did not understand, though I also had the distinct sense that communication was happening in my head. It was not like ordinary speech. It felt mental. I remember the impression, questions like, who was I, how was I, and what was my life like, left. I also remember being probed and prodded, but only enough. I did not feel pain. I did not feel terror either. I simply knew I was being examined. The next thing I remember is waking up back on the boat. The following day, I told my husband that something strange had happened, that I felt as though I had an out-of-body experience and had somehow been taken. This was long before such things were commonly discussed. I knew how it sounded and also knew he probably thought I sounded crazy, though I think part of him understood that something had deeply affected me. So, at least her husband was at least trying to be understanding, so good for him. I would love to know if she spoke with anyone else. We'll probably hear exactly who that might be in a moment, folks. So, let's read on and see if she spoke about this to other people and what they thought, or if she just kept it to herself. What stayed with me most was not fear. It was the feeling that the beings were kind. I did not sense cruelty from them. I did not feel hatred or malice. If anything, I felt something calm, curious, and almost loving. Whoever or whatever they were, I did not experience them as monstrous. Even now, if you ask me whether I would want to experience it again, I would say yes. I would, and yes, I believe something is out there. I think there is more to this world and to the sky above us than we understand. See. Indeed, folks, I agree with C here. There is more to this world, folks. But were these entities actually some sort of physical aliens, or were they some sort of metaphysical, spiritual beings? Now, it's been stated before, folks, the theory in UFOlogy that sometimes in various abduction scenarios, it isn't actually a physical abduction. It's spiritual. These aliens cause you to basically leave your body in an out-of-body experience, and they examine that. Sometimes that even makes more sense, folks, because in some accounts, people often say that they are floated out through the walls of their homes. Literally through the walls. They walk or basically glide through them, and then through the walls of the UFO itself. And then they are examined by these alien beings. If it's some sort of telepathic communication like that, or out-of-body experience, that would certainly be understandable. We can't be for sure. All these accounts are truly out there, folks, and leave you wondering how much of anything of it is real, but knowing that, yeah, indeed, there's more out there. But now, folks, we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in descriptions or the chat to go subscribe me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure at the part of the bell that give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so please come back again. Until then, folks, I'll see you all soon.